Well, hello, everybody. My name is Chung Nguyen, and I'm doing this project with Kaliap and Khan, and our topic will be on Ernest Hemingway. So, first off, we can check out his personal life. Ernest Miller Hemingway is his full name. He was born in Oak Park, Illinois on July 21st, 1899. He's an American novelist, short story writer. He in 1954, he was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. He started his career at around 17. He didn't go to college. He graduated from high school, but he went straight to working at a newspaper office in Kansas City. He tried to join the military, but it was rejected many times. So he volunteered and joined the ambulance unit in the Italian army after the U.S. entered the First World War. And he got married, injury, he got into two plane crash, and afterward, when he returned, he became a reporter for the Canadian and American newspaper. Other than writing, he also liked to go hunt and fishing, and he was married four times. Hadley Richardson in 1921 and he was divorced in 1927. Pauline Pfeiffer in 1927 and divorced in 1940. Martha Gellhorn in 1940 and divorced in 1945. And Mary Wells in 1946. And then his father is Clarence Emon Hemingway. His father is a physician, and his mother is Grace Hall Hemingway. She's an American She's an American opera singer. And then his life is not as happy as other people might think because of all his award and success writing. He was he had anxiety and depression, and there's many times where he wanted to suicide, and he took his own life with a shotgun at his own house. And it's very interesting how his family kind of have a history of suicide, where his father, I believe, also suicide, brother, son. And then he died in Idaho on July 2nd, 1961, at his own house in Ketchum. Moving on, his book and work. He published many novel, short story collection, and nonfiction work. Many of his work are actually considered as to be classic of American literature. Many people noted the intense masculinity of his writing and for his adventurous and widely publicized life. His succinct and lucid prose had a powerful influence on his 20th century fiction. The Old Man, the Sea, 1952 was his most outstanding novel among his other work. I would recommend reading that first compared to his other novel. And then Hemingway was actually a member of the expatriate American in Paris, which he would describe it in his first important work, The Sun Also Rises, 1926. And then For Whom the Bell Tolled, 1940. That's when he talked about his experiences as a reporter during the Civil War in Spain. A Farewell to Arm, 1929. This is where he contained his experiences, or more like this is where he talked about the ambulance officer during the war. And then Hemingway work, he explored love, war, wilderness, and loss. And his writing, he liked to stand while writing, which I found very interesting. And then his other short story novel was A Clean, Well-Lighted Place. This was published March 1933. And nihilism in this story is kind of like nihilism is like where you don't really believe life is meaningless, no religion, insufficient of religion. So in this story, it mostly basically show nothing. It's kind of like his story doesn't the theme is not really nothing. It's like he mostly focused on what he's trying to explain, how when you get older, you isolate, depressing, anxiety, and thinking of suicide. And then yours like fear of the darkness. And this is where nihilism come in, where it show that there's no belief, so darkness, isolation, it's like the truth of life. You have to face it. Life is dark, and that's how when you get older, that's how your life will be, and you have to go with the truth. And then by escaping that, in this story, a clean, well-lighted place is actually a place where the happy old people or the happy people not be fear of the dark, which I find very interesting. And mostly the only way to escape it is by mostly facing it. And basically nihilism connected to this story, which show that there's no religion, there's no symbol, there's nothing, it's meaningless. And that's the truth of life that you have to face. And thank you for my part. And now Khan will be continuing and covering me on the next part. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gong Yo, but most of you guys might know me as Kong. I will be presenting about the historical period of Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway is closely associated with the Lost Generation, a group of writers and artists, including Gertrude Stein, Scott Fitzgerald, and Ezra Pound, who came of age during World War One and were disillusioned by the social, political, and cultural upheaval of the period. Hemingway himself was a part of this generation, and his early works reflect his themes and concerns. The lost generation was characterized by a sense of disillusionment, alienation, and a rejection of traditional values. Many of its members, like Hemingway, were expatriates who had left the United States to live in Europe, where they were drawn to the vibrant cultural scene and the promise of new experiences. In his novel and short stories, Hemingway often portrayed characters who were struggling to find meaning in a post-war world. His heroes were typically men who had been scarred by their experiences in war and who were trying to make sense of their lives in a society that seemed to have lost its way. Hemingway's spared direct style and his focus on the experiences of individual characters captured the sense of alienation and inspired that characterized the lost generation. Hemingway's first novel, The Sun Also Rises, is a classic example of the lost generation literature. The novel portrays a group of American and British expatriates who travel to Pamplona, Spain, to witness the running of the bulls. The characters are disillusioned and lost, and the novel reflects the sense of aimlessness and disillusionment that characterize the lost generation. Hemingway's influence on the lost generation and on American literature more broadly cannot be overstated. His works captured the mood of the period and gave voice to a generation that felt adrift in a rapidly changing world. One of the defining characteristics of the lost generation was its rejection of the traditional values and conventions. Hemingway himself was a master of this rejection, both in his writing and in his personal life. He was known for his love of adventure, hunting, fishing, and drinking, and he, in his writing, rejected many of the social norms of his time. In his writing, Hemingway eschewed the elaborate and ornate prose of the Victorian era in favor of a more direct and concise way. His styles were short and declarative, and he often left out details that he felt unnecessary. Despite his rejection of tradition, the lost generation was also marked by a sense of community and shared experience. Hemingway's impact on American literature has been enormous, and his influence can be seen in the work of countless writers who have followed in his footsteps. His bare, direct style and his focus on individual experience continue to resonate with readers today, and his portrayal of the lost generation has become an enduring symbol of the disillusionment and alienation of the post-war period. The second topic will be the impact of Ernest Hemingway on the modern literature. Ernest Hemingway is widely regarded as one of the most influential and important writers of the 20th century. His impact on the modern literature cannot be replaced. The impacts are very the impact includes the writing style. Hemingway's sparse, minimalist writing style characterized by short declarative sentences and vivid sensory details has had a profound impact on modern literature. His style has been imitated and adapted by countless writers, and it remains a dominant influence on contemporary literature. One of the most um, famous writing style is called an iceberg theory, which he left out many details that are unimportant. Sorry. Secondly, subject matter, one of um, the impact he has on modern literature. Hemingway's focus on the experience of ordinary people and his exploration of themes such as love, loss, war, and the human condition have had a lasting impact on modern literature. His writing often explores the inner lives of its characters and complexities of human relationships, which continues to resonate with readers today. Thirdly, his literary techniques. Hemingway was known for his use of literary techniques such as the iceberg theory, in which the full depth and complexity of a character or situation is implied rather than stated explicitly. This approach to storytelling has influenced many writers who strive to convey meaning through implications rather than over explanation. Lastly, more. Particularly in the genre of creative nonfiction, Hemingway's memoir, A Movable Feast, has had a huge impact on the modern writing and literature. Many writers have been inspired by Hemingway's evocative description of Paris in 1923, as well as his reflections on the craft of his writing. Overall, Ernest Hemingway has had a huge impact on our modern literature and writings. Thank you for the attention. And my friend Khalid will continue with the last part.